Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats because the Mark Warsh Show is about to drop some truth bombs. First up, Trump's hush money investigation goes hush-hush, but can the Energizer Bunny keep going? Next, we're wheeling into controversy as Pat Sajak's tackle leaves us spinning. Then we'll talk about the Biden administration's fuel permit fibs. Looks like they're running on empty. Finally, we're putting justice on trial as we scrutinize a nominee's knowledge gap. Trust me, folks, you won't want to miss a second of this explosive episode. Buckle up and let the punishment begin. Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the Mark Warsh Show. We've got some bombshell news to break today, but before we dive in, I want to remind everyone to take a deep breath and keep their wits about them. I know it's tough when every day seems to bring a new wave of chaos, corruption, and confusion, but that's exactly when we need to be at our most vigilant. So here's the headline. A grand jury investigating former President Donald Trump's alleged involvement in a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels has been canceled. That's right, folks, the very same Stormy Daniels whose name has become synonymous with scandals, secrets, and sleaze. And you know what they say, where there's smoke, there's fire, but in this case, it looks like the fires have been extinguished. Now, the reasons for this decision are unclear, but sources suggest that the district attorney's office has been struggling with the case and may not have enough evidence to proceed. It's worth noting that this grand jury was set up to investigate not only the payment itself, but also Trump's possible involvement in the transaction. And yet, despite months of probing, they've apparently come up empty-handed. Of course, there are plenty of people who are eager to jump to conclusions and insinuate that Trump is somehow getting off scot-free. But we should remember that he's not been indicted or even charged with any wrongdoing. His lawyer has emphatically stated that Trump is not a target of any investigation and there is no allegation of any wrongdoing against him. So until we have more concrete information, let's hold off on assuming the worst. Now, all that being said, it's hard not to feel a bit cynical about this whole affair. After all, this is just the latest in a long line of scandals and controversies that have plagued Trump's presidency and his personal life. Some might argue that he's Teflon Don, but I prefer to think of him as the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going and going no matter what obstacles get in his way. In any case, we'll continue to keep an eye on this story and update you with any new developments. Until then, stay safe, stay skeptical, and don't believe everything you hear. This has been the Mark Warsh Show, where we stand for faith, family, freedom, and a healthy dose of skepticism. Welcome back to the Mark Warsh Show, folks. Today, we have yet another bizarre incident to report on, this time on the set of Wheel of Fortune. Host Pat Sajak tackled a contestant on air, and both fans and critics are divided over the strange scene. Some viewers are claiming that Sajak's physicality resulted in the contestant's loss, marking a clear violation of fair play. Yet others are chalking it up to good-natured humor and fun. One thing is for sure, though, this incident is proof positive that the mainstream media will do anything to distract us from real issues. Let's break it down, folks. First of all, why is a game show host getting physical with a contestant? Look, I enjoy a good wrestling match as much as the next guy, but there's a time and place for everything. This was just plain unprofessional. Secondly, what does this say about the state of our media landscape? We've seen the fake news media time and time again try to manipulate and control our perceptions of reality. And now even the normally benign world of game shows isn't immune to their influence. But here's the kicker, folks. This whole incident occurred on a show where Sajak's daughter was making her debut as a special guest letter turner. Now, call me a cynic, but doesn't that seem like a bit of nepotism in action? I mean, sure, she's talented and all, but couldn't they have found someone more qualified? It all comes back to the same issue we see across our society, a lack of transparency and accountability. We need to demand better from our media, our leaders, and our institutions. So while some may find this incident humorous or inconsequential, let's not forget that there are real victims here. Viewers who tuned in expecting a fair game of chance were instead subjected to a sideshow. Hopefully this incident will serve as a wake-up call to our media and we can refocus on the things that really matter: our families, our faith, and our freedom. Welcome back to the Mark Warsh Show, where we're not afraid to call out the BS that comes from the government and the mainstream media. Today's topic, the Biden administration's inaccurate figure concerning the number of unused fossil fuel permits. Looks like they've been caught with their pants down. Again, folks, remember when they reported that 5,000 permits were unused? Well, turns out they were off by over 4,000 permits. It's like they were trying to inflate the number to make it seem like they were doing something about energy prices. Of course, the Democrats are quick to play the blame game. They say that the rising energy and gas prices are not their fault, that they inherited a shaky economy. Yeah, right. Tell that to the working class people who are struggling to make ends meet. It's time for the Biden administration to take responsibility for their policies that have contributed to the price hikes. Instead of pushing their eco-friendly agenda by restricting fossil fuel permits, they should be finding ways to make it more affordable for the American people. And while we're at it, let's talk about the processing of these permits. The Republicans are asking for information on the amount of time it will take to process the permits and the status of applications that have already been submitted. It's been radio silence from the Biden administration, and that's just not cool. On top of that, they're proposing policies and regulations that could further impede the process. Are they trying to make it difficult for the energy companies to get their permits approved? That's not going to help the American people who are struggling to pay their energy bills. Folks, it's time to demand transparency from our government. We deserve to know the truth about the energy permit situation, and we need to hold our elected officials accountable. Let's hope the Biden administration comes clean soon, because the American people deserve better. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for tuning into the Mark Warsh Show, where we'll always call out the BS when we see it. As an African-American boomer who values faith, family, and freedom, and has a healthy skepticism of the official mainstream and government narratives, the recent Senate confirmation hearing was quite the interesting spectacle. Senator John Kennedy put 4 of President Biden's judicial nominees to the test, asking them a series of questions about the Constitution and its interpretation. Unfortunately, one of the nominees, Cato Cruz, was not up to the task when asked about a Brady motion. The Brady motion is an essential legal procedure that is used to request evidence from the prosecutor that may be favorable to the defense. In other words, it's an important part of ensuring that justice is served in criminal cases. But it seems that Cato Cruz, a criminal defense attorney of over 18 years, was not familiar with this motion or the landmark Supreme Court case that it's named after. Senator Kennedy's inquiries into this issue have raised concerns among some senators that Cruz might not be qualified for the position of district judge. However, others have come to Cruz's defense, pointing out his long history of advocating for criminal justice reform. And let's not forget that if he is confirmed, Cruz would be the first African-American judge in Colorado's federal court system. So there's a lot to consider. Despite these mixed reactions to Cruz's performance, one thing is clear. This hearing put a spotlight on the importance of having judges who possess a deep understanding of the law and are committed to upholding justice. After all, our justice system can only be effective if we have judges who are both knowledgeable and impartial. In the end, it's up to the Senate to decide whether to confirm Cruz. But regardless of the outcome, we should all be aware of the critical role that judges play in our society and be dedicated to ensuring that only the most qualified candidates are nominated and confirmed for these positions. Because when it comes to justice, there's no room for ambiguity or uncertainty. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of another eye-opening episode of the Mark Warsh Show. I want to thank you all for joining me in this relentless pursuit of truth, justice, and a good laugh. If you enjoyed our time together, I hope I've earned your thumbs up and subscription. They mean the world to me. Before we part ways, remember you can always connect with me on social media to join the conversation and continue unearthing the hidden gems in our world. Together, we're a force for good, and I couldn't be prouder to have you by my side. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay curious, and keep shining that light of truth.